One of the other things also that obviously then comes to mind when we talk about cost, the cost of things, we think about these trade-offs is the funding aspect, right? Of building something this complex, something this ambitious. And I think we all have done like an amazing job of not just raising capital, but also in many ways evangelizing the ecosystem and helping other people down the line effectively raise capital as well, right? Something that you were saying in the beginning, how successes inspire others and beget other successes, right? Tell us about your fundraising journey, why you chose to work with, the different investors that you did, and what was the approach like of being able to just convince people of something that maybe they'd never even been pitched before from an Indian startup, right? That we want to do. We have the mission and the ambition is so large, and we want to do something that's never been done before. Give us the money, right? So if you could tell us a little bit about the journey, right? Starting with, from you talked in the very beginning about how we raise how Pixel raised their your initial first sort of set of angel checks, etc. Right, the $700,000 odd, and from there coming to almost like $100 million or more at this point of time. What does that look like? And any sort of like key memorable aspects from any of the rounds that you all have had in the recent past. Would just love to understand how somebody navigates fundraising in a space this complex, and almost as you're creating the category as you raise the capital and build the company to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, it has not been easy for any round. At every stage, we have been a round or two ahead of what there seems to be a lot of capital for. Like, when we raised our pre-seed round of, as I said, like 5 crores back in 2019, no, like two companies probably had raised smaller angel rounds. Like you had Skyroot and you had Agnicul probably. And then when we raised our seed round of 7.3 million, that was 2021, 2022. And that was the first instance of any large VC fund in India investing in a hard tech company, forget, space tech. And then when we raised our Series A, it came from a North American investor because no Indian investor was, willing to put in money at that valuation at that stage. And then similarly with Series B as well, where we had Google and a few others come in, where there was no Indian check willing to put in 20-30 million dollars to kind of lead and pull together a round. So it's never been easy. I think what you have to do is you have to just keep talking to as many investors as you potentially can in India globally, and you have to find someone who resonates with your vision, right? It's a long term bet, because this is not like a AI play or a software play where you will start to see results immediately in the year or 2 years. It'll take 5 years to build something, and then once you sort of hit PMF, it sort of starts to scale. I think that is that has been the challenge. We started with, as I mentioned, the angel round. It was all people looking at it like philanthropy, so it was not even like a proper round. It was just angels being angels. They're named that for a reason. But what we did with that is we went a very long way with that 5 crores. We used 90% of that towards building of the satellite, 10% for everything else. Lived on like as less of a salary as we could, all the six people that were there at that point in time. And we actually ended up building the hardware for a satellite. And when we were trying to raise the next round, we were able to show people, come take a look at the satellite that we are building. Come take a look at what we've been able to do. See all the customers who are telling us on email that they will buy this data if we're able to build and put it up there. For Series A, we were able to have a lot of MOUs and LOIs and some early contracts that we had with folks that we could show that there is market demand, one. And second, we have now demo satellite launched. So the technical risk is not 100 anymore. It's maybe sort of come down to 10% risk or 15% risk because now we just need to scale it up. And and then the Series B was you have to show significantly more commercial traction, and you have to show two more demo satellites built, and then now we actually have commercial satellites up there. So I think at different stages, investors have looked at different things, and that's fairly traditional. Except that I think in software startups in Series A also you would look at revenue. In the case of deep tech startups, you wouldn't. But what doesn't change is if you want two or three interested investors, you have to talk to 200 of them, and you have to listen to a lot of no's, and you have to run it like a tight process. You can't keep on extending it forever. So what we did is we said, okay, we're going to fundraise starting this month. So we start preparation 2 months before. 1 month is for all the data room preparation, and then the next month is for starting to set up meetings for the next month. So let's say we want to start in April 1st and we want to end it by May 31st. We say, okay, we are starting all the conversations you try and pack between the first 3 weeks of April, and then you talk to as many folks as possible. And from there, you tell them all that, look, you have 6 weeks or 8 weeks to make a decision, and we're going to sort of close out the process then. So that kind of
Sure.
gives them a little bit of sense of what time they need to work with. And that's, I think, a good enough time where it's not so tight that they can't make it work, and it's not so long that it keeps on extending forever. And if people aren't willing to work with that timeline, they were never gonna, never really interested in what you're doing anyways. You have to see that pull out of the 100,
Hmm. Hmm.
probably 40 will take second or third meetings. Out of the 40, probably 15 or 10 will take deep dives. And out of those 15 or 10, you'll probably have three or four, if you're lucky, term sheets or people willing to invest. And then you choose one of them and then you put it together, right? So I think just talking to as many people, and the reason for you to talk to so many people is you don't know who's going to resonate with your story. You have to find people who resonate with your vision. Eventually, as long as they resonate with your vision and can see that in 5 years or in 10 years, these folks will get somewhere big,
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
so much care about what's happening this month, that month, this year, as long as they can see that path there.
One of the things that I'm also curious to understand is like in your experience, right? Like working with multiple different investors, how do they diligence something like this, right? I think when it comes to like hard tech or deep tech, one of the biggest challenges is it's not a very well-known theme, right? It's far more likely that someone in the investment team would have context on, say, financial services or health tech or even application software. It's not very likely that natively most investment teams will have much or any context, in fact, on space tech as a subject, right? So I'm also just curious to understand what was that process like, right? Like, did you have to say, connect investors to folks at ISRO that look, we work with these folks, we test our satellites, they'll vouch for what we're doing, or do they find their own experts and bring them along with them to come look at the satellite, poke at it and try and understand is everything actually there? Just curious, what approaches you've seen different investors take, to get to that point where they can say, okay, we're comfortable and here's our money.
Yeah, so I think there's two things that they do. They do commercial diligence and they do technical diligence. The commercial diligence is basically you have to connect them to your customers and have them talk to them, and they have to wax lyrical about how your product will be helpful for them, and they will do their own research, talking to similar companies in the space, etc. So that's the commercial part of it. That's kind of easy. Eventually, you have to talk to potential customers we are saying are going to be our customers and asking, hey, will you buy it? And if they say we'll buy it, and
Sure.
we'll buy it from them because they're building it at such and such quality. That's the commercial diligence. The technical diligence, they hire experts, they hire ISRO scientists or they hire SpaceX scientists and be like,
Okay.
they pay them a consulting fee and they're like, hey, can you go check out what these folks are doing and whether it kind of makes sense and if they're bullshitting or not. And that takes 2, 3 weeks of questions and back and forth and answers. And as long as I think all those, checklists are green, they go ahead and invest. Yeah.
And would you say most of your investors came, saw the satellite, saw it physically, or did you also have folks who were just so excited by the ideas and by your energy that they were like, you know what, just build it and we'll check it out later?
Um, I mean, I think at different stages there are different levels. I think at the seed stage, it was mostly about our design. At the Series A stage, we actually had a working satellite up there. You can't really fake that. At Series B, we had even more demo satellites. It's even harder to fake that. And next round will be, we have actually commercial satellites and people are paying for that. So I think it's just changes at different stage. But at all stages, there's some diligence that's done. Now that depends on the investor. We've not come across an investor that just waves it off and they're like, but at every point, we have to at least prove some level of validity.
Got it. Got it. Understood. I think